Whew. Sorry, Harry. Good morning. Welcome back to the second hour of Lovebabz Love Talk, as promised.
Good
Our
morning, Babs.
Yoruba priestess is in the house. Hey, Enroue.
Hey there.
How are you?
Good morning.
I
Good
see that head
morning.
is covered. Must be chilly.
It is chilly.
It is.
It is the chilly, rainy day of the spring.
Mhm.
Um, yes. Um, Glad the plants and the earth are happy. Um, and it's similar to yesterday. I was like, this is the kind of day, like hot drink, in bed, good book, or some good movies. So I'm still holding out for that vision
I like that.
to happen
I
at
was
some
thinking
point
about
today.
that all day. I was like, when will I get to?
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, let's connect with our people. Let's welcome them. Let's feel their support and care. I invite people to whatever you're doing, however you're listening, just to invite the your loving ancestors, or invite your ancestors to be present with you in the ways that you need, in the ways that feel supportive, that feel encouraging, for you to be open to that love from them. And so this chant is about honoring them for the blessings, for the ashe that they have left for us, that they have passed on, and that we're using that ashe, those blessings, today in our lives. So let us be open to that possibility of these good things, these blessings coming down through our ancestry to us, and be open to being curious about how we can use them today. So this chant is about that. Ibababa tó fún wa ṣe o. Ibababa tó fún wa ṣe. Ibababa tó fún wa ṣe o. Ibababa tó fún wa ṣe, àṣetè fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ibababa tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà yeye tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà yeye tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà yeye tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà yeye tó fún wa ṣe, àṣetè fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ìbà yeye tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe, àṣetè fún wa là ń lò yìí o. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Ìbà egungun tó fún wa ṣe. Àṣẹ, àṣẹ, àṣẹ.
Shay.
So Tuesday, I went up to the Wadsworth Athenaeum in Hartford,
I saw that.
and it was the beginning of a three-part series they're doing, that the Amistad Center for Arts and Culture are doing, which is housed in the Wadsworth, about mental health issues that Black and brown men and boys are facing and dealing with. And Tuesday we saw Titus Kafar's movie, exhibiting forgiveness.
I saw it.
And so there was a reception, and we saw the movie, and then there was a talk back with Titus, and the curator of the Amistad, Sarah Clunas. And so that's present. And then also just so in October 26th, I will actually be doing part 2 of that. So I'm invited on October 26th. I don't remember offhand if that's a Saturday or a Sunday. But I'll be doing a talk for about an hour, and then like a half-day workshop about it. So really building some skills and listening and connecting with each other around these issues. And it's also connected to their exhibit called Yoruba World. So they have an exhibit that is showing art and artifacts of the Yoruba people, as well as the ways that people in the diaspora have also continued these traditions and created art and related to that as well. So I'm coming, and they invited me in to kind of bridge both of those things, you know, as a Yoruba priest, as a babalawo, and also as a clinical social worker, you know, and connected to justice work, to really talk about mental health and healing for Black men and boys. So that's coming up. So that's like another, this kind of component of healing. And then I've also really been working with, there's something about right now that's really been centered on this piece around healing and fatherhood and maleness. And not just fatherhood, but like maleness. And so our relation to our fathers and our relationship with our mothers, and really around like cis men. There's some other workshops and things that I'm also doing as well. So for me, there's this like confluence of paying attention to this. And I worked with somebody last night who in their job was having all of these issues with men, and, you know, this is a woman, and, you know, ways that like she's expected to be this caregiver and, you know, has to work harder and is, you know, demeaned in various ways, you know, as so many of us in so many ways have experienced, right? The kind of death from 1,000 paper cuts. And the question of like, well, how do we heal when that is still going on, right? When it doesn't seem like there's a break from that. And so it's just a really active conversation. And in addition to brainstorming and problem solving about kind of concrete policies, practices, institutional things that are showing up like at this person's workplace, there was also this connection to her father's line in her ancestry, and some real problems and issues around trust and difficulty there and needs of healing there. So it was really powerful to work on, to talk both about these are ways to deal with it in like human beings and, you know, the like physical world, and how to get support to make sure, you know, her concerns are being heard, and right. So as how does issues of like male supremacy show up and land on her, right? Kind of one thing, we talked about that. But we also talked about ways that there were things in her that got hooked into that, right? So like if somebody has, so if someone is treating her in this instant as a caregiver, there's something in her that hooks into that, and because she's also been trained to be that role, particularly for men. And so to start to increase her awareness, to start to undo the ways that hooks in her. And then also additionally to be dealing with the spiritual aspect. And so there's just something really active and alive around, which I wanted to explore. You know, and it's not new in terms of what we've talked about, but, you know, this place of our role in the healing and the approaching of like how our relationship, either being men or relationship with men, in our lives, including in our ancestry, and how to address ways that there's very often a lot of pain there. Not to fix or avoid or minimize, but to really approach the variety of ways that makes sense. And so what was powerful with, another piece that was powerful with Titus's movie is this, how we approach forgiveness and what that means in what context. And actually a way of, one way, not the way, but a way of approaching forgiveness is like, so I forgive you for what was done, And that doesn't necessarily mean I open my heart to you now and moving forward, right? There's still ways that we get to determine and decide relationships and boundaries. So just kind of all of that is really active. And so I just wanted to begin to just talk about and explore some of those things. There's, so like in my own family, in the kind of my father's father, his father, like the kind of like that male line, father to father to father to father, there's, both, this history and power of like people, what are these roles of provider and what does that mean? And people wanting to be in that role, to give to their family, to give to their communities, and then ways that gets really distorted and can actually, people can get lost in a role or an idea of that. And so my great grandfather, the kind of first stories I ever heard of him were actually about how abusive he was. So he was really abusive to my great grandmother and to my grandfather and his siblings. My grandfather was the oldest of 5. And then my grandfather learned how to fight in a large way to protect his mom and his siblings and himself from the abuse from his father. And then he made commitments to never be physically abusive to his family, right, to his wife or to his kids. And so this courage and power of like something has happened, right? This hurt has happened to me or in my family, and I'm going to do what I can to like not perpetuate that. And my grandfather. So there's also this history of drug and alcohol abuse, and so he was not physically abusive to my grandmother or my father or my aunt or my uncle, yet he struggled with alcoholism, and the way that he took his anger out was he would leave and then go get into fights. Him and other family members would go to a bar, go into a neighborhood, and release all of their anger and frustration and the emotions that they didn't have a place for into getting in fights with other people. But it also led to him being distant and emotionally distant with family. And I think some of that also caused a lot of pain in ways that he was not also able to really be present. And then my father, I think, took that one step, kind of a little bit, kind of kept stepping in this place of like, what is healing, right? So he got in recovery, probably when I was about 10. My parents split up when I was 7. And so he never, there was never that kind of abuse dynamic that was set up, but he was also really absent. So the way that he dealt with his struggles with literally being physically absent. And even when after my parents got separated and I would see him, there were ways that there was still this absence in my life. So it was this feeling of like searching for him. Yet he also, I'd still get the look, right? For if I was doing something I shouldn't have been doing, right? He'd like give me that look. So I then grew up like, oh, I really want to be present with my kids in such a different way, and dealing with my own healing kind of at a much earlier age, and still in the early part of my parenting was like, well, the look is fine, like that's not abuse, that's just like you just better do this thing. And then I discovered from my 4-year-old daughter that who told my wife that she was really scared of me. When I got mad, she was really scared, and I realized that there's still a threat of violence in that look. Like that's actually what the look is. It's a you better. I have the power to like destroy your world because we talk about this is what we do towards children, right? And I also realized that like I don't do that to other people, right? I'm not like walking in the world and like someone does a thing and I'm like I give them a look like you just better, right? But I was doing that to the most vulnerable people in my family, right? These children. And so I had to really check myself and like I don't want that. Like I'm holding something. I'm still perpetuating this thread of violence. And so I had to do I had a conversation actually with my daughter about like the importance of her taking some ownership for her behavior, but also that like I would not do that anymore. And so this like bit by bit of like how we heal and how we make changes about how we are present with each other is really important. But there's still this place of healing, and with this ancestor work that's such a fundamental part of Yoruba culture and practice and Orisha practice, is then like, oh, how do I relate and have relationship with these ancestors who also cause violence? Can I see ways that even if I don't know the facts, can I be open to knowing, especially as a clinical social worker, what leads people to that kind of violence? What leads people to, addiction? What leads people to really tightening and closing their heart and thinking that they're doing the right thing, and that right thing is actually about causing harm to the people closest to you. And that's also been a journey of really understanding that, not excusing and saying, well, the behavior wasn't okay, but also having a lot of compassion that we're actually all like, we're born into a system that can really encourage us to do that, to do things that are dehumanizing to each other, to do things that are, we think are protective, right? Well, if I, the notion of tough love, if I yell at my kids and, put steel in them, then like when they go out in the world that they're going to be okay. And these are strategies that particularly, well, I won't say particularly, but like as oppressed people, wherever, that notion of like the world is dangerous, so I need to harden myself and I need to harden my children so that they can survive that. And these strategies fundamentally create more harm in the most intimate places in our lives and our families, and don't necessarily protect us. Whether we, how we dress, kind of education, how we talk, how we carry ourselves, the adoption of, particularly for men, and so coming out of enslavement, right, the adoption of what patriarchy looks like so that we can get something, so that we can, make our way in this society, has had a really devastating cost on us in our own hearts and the people who we love. And so, I just really encourage folks to like keep on these journeys of curiosity, of healing, of openness on like, what are the many ways that we can have courage to lean into relationships, to lean into love, to lean into receiving care, like to being open to receiving care, which, for me was a very challenging thing for a long time. It's very easy to, and obviously I go into like these helping fields, right? But having to also really work at like, oh, I get to receive care, right? I get to have needs and explore how to get those needs met without it being around coercion or sarcasm or deflection.
Whoa. So Enroue, listen, those are people's coping mechanisms right there, like a whole basket of them. So how do they get, so that's a level of vulnerability that most people cannot or don't know how to unpack.
Yes.
Not can't, because you could do anything, but don't know how to pick one of those things and start working on them and peeling them back a little bit and noticing when they're using it as a defense mechanism. Right.
So again, like, this isn't about judging those coping mechanisms. This isn't about saying like, you just got to throw them all out the window and just like run naked through the streets, right? That's not what we're talking about, so to speak, even like emotionally, right? But that's the image, right? That's what it feels like. So one thing I would say, all right, so I'll give this example. So after the film, right before Titus started to speak, everybody was like full of all the emotions, and it's a really beautiful film. There's a lot in it. And he was like, well, let's just breathe. And I took some breaths. And he was like, this is for me also. Like, you know, he's like, I'm in this, right? It's really a personal story for him, the movie. And in the talkback, this woman got up. So he did that and then proceeded with the talkback and the kind of interview, receiving questions from people. And this one woman asked this question. So you started us off together by breathing, connecting to our breath, slowing down. Here we are, right? That's the pause of the habits that we can be in, right? I'm using the coping mechanism. I don't want to stop and pause at this feeling. Oh, we can actually pause and be present with what's happening and be with it differently. So she said, that was great. And then I'm going home. And like, these characters are going to be with me. Like, they're already like in me. I can hear them and they're going to be with me. So what do I do? And he said, well, this happens a lot, right? These characters stay with people, and he gets emails and letters about that. And, you know, he had some advice around, you know, connecting with your community, connecting with other people to process this film, to process these things, which I think was really good and really helpful. And what I would add to that, right, because this is also realizing like, oh, my work is the follow-up on her question, right? That's like work that I've been doing. And so what I would say is, number one, to recognize that those voices, those characters are actually already in you because of what you've gone through. And you've allowed this thing outside of you to give voice to them. And for you are in some ways giving yourself permission to listen to them. And so the first step is to honor that they're there. And not just honor them in terms of like, oh no, here's the stories of the pain and the hurt that I now have to understand. But to recognize that my own system, me, myself, am saying to myself that I might have the capacity to deal with those things differently. Because we are very good at shutting down. We are very good at compartmentalizing and stuffing things away and putting for good reason and for dysfunctional reason, right? And then we're just like, now we just have to keep them away. Without realizing that like at those moments of that hurt, it was very functional and helpful to put those things away. They were too much. But you know, right now, as they bubble, they may be saying, oh, remember me, and I think you can deal with me now. And so now the question is, what do I need to put in place to be present? Right? What is the breathing that I need to do to be present as I approach and listen and honor and address those issues and those characters and that pain in a different way, in a way that an adult can do it instead of the way that an 8-year-old couldn't do it. And that looks very different for different people in different times. That could be therapy, that could be 12-step programs, that could be, you know, there's like different kinds of peer counseling things that go on. It can be art, it can be spiritual practices. But it's what is the thing that's going to help you to have courage and presence to be with that, to be present with the hurt part of your own self. Not necessarily to then go run after the person. Oh, you did this. Man, there may be some of that happens, but there's healing that I need to do because this is in me and this is now impairing my functioning today. It's getting in the way of relationships that I want to do. So we have to be honest with ourselves. Do I have the relationships that are actually nourishing for me? Can I love and be loved? Can I even be connected to what that? Am I even aware that I have needs? And that maybe there's a way to live with them being present. And it's not to say that, you know, you start to do this work, it happens, then you're free, you can do all the things. But it's to say, if you become aware of these shackles that you yourself are now helping to maintain, isn't it worth moving towards a direction of being free from those shackles?
Mm-hmm.
You may not know what that feels like. You may not know what's on the other side, or can I really get there?
Mm-hmm.
But isn't it worth moving in that direction?
Ooh, that's some good stuff right there.
That's what I
Ooh.
feel. That's what my experience has been. It's not easy, but what it gives you is so much deeper and allows for yourself to have room in this world. You deserve to be here. You're here. You deserve to be here. You deserve to have a life that's relevant for you. You have to be the one to accompany that and to help that to happen. It's not all on you, right? The pain is still around. The systems of oppression are still around. There's still people who aren't going to see you. There's still systems that are going to be like, now who do you think you are, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But if we're not clear with ourselves, we can't even be clear on how to skillfully address those things. To know that this thing is outside of me and this thing is inside of me. And so I need to deal with them differently. I need to deal with the things inside of me in a very different way. And then I can skillfully deal with the things outside of me. Or I skillfully deal with the things outside of me. Oh, I don't need to bring my heart to this place. They can't see me. Okay, I can really be clear. And then I'm not so worked up because I show up, I do my thing, I go. This doesn't have to be the place that has all the meaning and purpose and validation for me. I show up, hang out, do my work, or like I'm visiting somebody or whatever that interaction is. I don't need to be confused that they're going to meet some need that's deep inside of me, that's hidden but is like banging against the door or like cracking things and coming out in really awkward ways. Right? And so that takes honesty and courage and curiosity and connection to others also, because it's not that you just have to do it on your own. And these can be ways of, like, in terms of like spiritual practices, it's like with our ancestors, if there's one who you feel some support from, go to that one and even say like I feel this support from you. I feel so disconnected for the rest of them. And just have that conversation. Just talk about the difficulty or the yearning or the confusion or the anger, whatever, with the one that you've got a little bit of connection with. And then you can, bit by bit, be open to reaching out to these other ones to see what's there. And again, it might be just like, I'm mad at you and you did this stuff and I got no tolerance. And That's fine. They're there. They're waiting for us to be connected to them.
See, that film, I feel like that film confirmed what you do a little bit. I feel like because you have a different energy this morning about talking about this film, which is really nice. Because I think that film, if you've seen it, it causes you to feel something like people, something is your story, is somebody's story, and it grabs you like that. You're like, this is so familiar to me. Do you know what I mean? It gives you that invitation. So
even as so for me, even as the particulars were different, there's still like, this is the complexity of these relationships.
Yes.
Right?
The complexities. Yes.
This is the complexity, right? I'm showing up, I'm not showing up. I love you, here are the conditions for the love. I want you to do this. This is good for you. You need to do, like, how we do with parents, grandparents, children, partners, community. It's so I really felt this. So I feel like I'm really excited to do this second part in October. Mm-hmm. But it does really, so the thing that it does for me personally is it is also like I'm seeing that there's more and more openness to these conversations, and people willingness to engage in this type of exploration and healing and boundaries and relationships, that actually makes what I feel and have to say easier.
Mm.
And it's, it's not like, let me convince you that this is important, right? It's like, let's just get into this, right? And, it's not to say that like you picket things just to picket them. But it's important to be aware of like, how is this, right, shackling me or numbing me or freezing me or hardening my heart? Or is this helping me to be a little freer, right? And to be a part of a life that we don't have figured out, but it still has a place for us. We don't have to hold on so tightly and to have it all figured out or to push forward or to keep moving. And like to be connected to also the wonder and beauty that is here.
Yeah. Some good stuff, Enroue.
Life is full of good stuff.
Yeah, you know what? In this moment, right now, you're absolutely right. It's hard. Yeah. You could miss it with all the other stuff floating over you.
It's hard, especially when when the pain and the hurt is also so present. It's hard to remember that there's also beauty and goodness and a way for us to be held also.
Yeah. This is a good conversation on a lot of levels, because I think people who are listening will be in agreement, but like, yes. I can try to listen out for the other voice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't always have to listen to the chaotic voices. I can, tune in.
And even that is a really wonderful start. Just if you recognize that there's something in you that's saying, yes, I don't know how, I don't know what the next step is, I don't know what to do, I'm still kind of scared, but allow yourself to honor and be curious about that yes. Because that means there's something in you. It's not me telling you something exists that's not existing. It's something in you that's saying, yes, there's something there. Maybe I could be in my life and feel a little different.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's try that.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for another rich conversation.
Thank you, Babz.
Reminding us that we can connect back to our ancestors on this side and that side.
Yes.
I like that. Thank you. Babz. Don't worry, y'all. He will be back. The conversation and the healing and the teachings continue.
Say.
Enjoy the rest of this rainy week.
Thanks, Babz. You too. Thank you all, everyone. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you. Bye, Harry. I won't be here tomorrow. So hold it down and no propaganda. Thank you, Enroue. I appreciate you so much.